Everything is inspired by the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is the founder and charge of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Om Adhyanajivanandasya Ganamyana Saratya Taksudumiditam Yana Tashmahi Sri Gurave Namaha Ji Chaitanya Stapitam Yana Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamaya Dadati Swapadatikam. Today we're going to talk about swans and crows, birds not of a feather. We learn from crows and swans in nature. Now we should be very selective in what we feed ourselves, what goes in our ears and eyes, because the ears and eyes are gates to the soul. Considering that, you need to be careful what you watch, what you listen to, and who you associate with, because all that's constantly inputting, constantly feeding us. For example, if you eat Twinkies, like this guy on the bottom here, candy bars, sodas, you're going to be like him, feeding yourself junk. So similarly, we can also listen to junk things that drag us down. We can hang around people who gossip, complain, sour all the time, singing that same old sad song. So because you're feeding your inner person junk food, fallout is that you're not going to become the kind of person that God created you to be. So our message today is be careful what it is you take in. Today, I think you'll agree with me, there's more opportunity than ever before in the history of the world to feed on all the wrong things. I've heard, there are over 500 channels on the TV. We all know about internet, smartphones, magazines, billboards, and billboards seem to be unfortunately proliferating in the state of Utah, covering up all that beautiful roadside scenery. There are all kinds of things trying to influence you with sophisticated tools which have never been seen before in the history of the world. I'm not saying it's all bad, but I'm saying you have to be on guard. Some programs have people airing dirty laundry, profane language, showing conflict, backstabbing, dysfunction. We see portrayed people who are unfaithful, dishonest, compromising, stabbing each other in the back. All that's going into your subconscious mind, and the more you take in, the more it desensitizes you to the same thing. Don't be surprised that you end up down the line doing many of those same things. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, the enemy can't force its way into, just like nobody can force their way into your house. Someone's knocking on the door. If you're intelligent, you won't just open the door without first looking through the peephole or peeking through the curtains to see who it is. If it's your enemy, you're not going to open the door. You're going to keep the door closed. Just common sense. We don't open the door to our inner residential facilities to just anyone. We look first to see who's knocking. Similarly, we don't just open our eyes to anything. The Bhagavad Gita says that's the beginning of trouble. Dayato visham pumsam sangat sanjayate kama. You wouldn't feel unhealthy, lusty attachment to something if you hadn't overly long looked at it, would you? Right? If you had avoided the trap of contemplating the object of the senses, then you would not have gotten attachment. And if you had not attachment, you wouldn't have gotten lust. And if you hadn't had lust, you wouldn't have gotten anger. If you hadn't got anger, your memory wouldn't have been bewildered. And if your memory hadn't been bewildered, you wouldn't have fallen down into the material pool. So I think you'll agree with me, after all of that, it saves a lot of trouble. Just not gander. Don't look overly long. When we watch TV, the internet, that's all appealing to the lowest common denominator. People fighting with each other in bizarre situations. And the more we see it, the bar gets lower, 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 lower. Stop and ask yourself, what kind of values are being portrayed here? Are they things that build you up, wholesome? Are they inspiring you to be a better version of yourself? If not, our message today is better make the necessary changes. better put your foot down and say, no thanks, I'm not a garbage can. I'm not going to fill my ears and my eyes with poison. Only a fool feeds on trash. My life is too short, my time too valuable to feed on anything that's not building me up. On the heels of that, take the example of a high-performance car. In a high-performance car, you don't put regular gas or regular oil. You put high-octane gas and high-quality oil. And if you do that, how much faster, how much better will that car perform than just a regular car? For a high-performing car, we're naturally selective in what we put in the engine. You can get by putting regular gas, regular oil in that car. Similarly, you can get by in your life watching questionable things on your phone, listening to things that drag you down, hanging around with people who erode your values. Your car, so to speak, will run, but what we're talking about here is reaching your highest potential, becoming everything that Krishna or God has created you to be. If you're not careful, scrolling, screen time, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, TV, that will all conspire to determine who you are. An illustrative story. One time, there was a young man named Hari. He lives in the middle of an urban environment, artist, a sculptor, and his works were known for their beauty, their spiritual depth. He carved from stone and wood. His work seemed to emanate a peaceful, divine energy that just captivated everyone who saw them. People marveled how a man living in such a frantic, modern environment could produce works so full of serenity. The secret was his discipline. Every morning, you ever heard the term miracle mornings? Every miracle morning, you rise before the sun, he'd spend time chanting the names of the Lord, doing yoga, focusing his heart's and intentions, because he believed that in order to create beauty, he first had to cultivate beauty within himself. Can you imagine? How he was meticulous about what he allowed in his life, especially first thing in the morning. He treated his senses like gates to a sacred temple. His home was simple, goes without saying, no television, no internet, no Facebook, no Instagram, no stream of constant digital chatter. Instead of endless scrolling on his smartphone, he spent his evenings reading Bhagavad Gita, doing kirtan, chanting, listening to devotional songs, or just simply sitting in silence. And he had as his friends a close-knit group of fellow artists and thinkers who shared his values, people who encouraged him, encourage one another to create, to grow, and to be true to a divine purpose. One day, a wealthy man named Rohan came to see Hare. He wanted him to carve a grand sculpture for his new estate. Rohan was a man of the world, a lot of money, income, but his mind was a whirlwind of anxieties and desires. Constantly he was connected, phone always buzzing with notifications. His television was always running in the background at home. Steady diet of news, dramas, gossip filled his day. Some or other, Rohan was impressed by Hari's work. Not only that, but he was captivated by the context, by the lifestyle. He asked, how do you do it? Gesturing around at all the simplicity and all the natural beauty. Don't you get bored? Don't you feel like you're missing out on everything? Hari smiled. He said, my friend, a sculptor knows that the quality of his work depends on the quality of the stone and the sharpness of his tools. My mind is no different from that. The thoughts that we think, the images that we see, the sounds we hear, these are the materials that we are constantly carving our lives with. If I were to feed myself with empty stories, listen to endless chatter, and surround myself with people who gossip, complain, and tear others down, my inner world would become ugly, cluttered, and chaotic. And my art would reflect that. So I choose to be selective because I understand that every piece of information I take in is a chisel stroke on the soul. I'm building a temple within myself, not a junkyard. And Rohan did inventory. He considered his own life, the constant stream of noise, anxieties planted by every news headline, the bitterness from the gossip he heard. He realized that he was trying to build a magnificent life with broken tools, corrupted materials, with an inner landscape that was a reflection of the digital debris that he consumed daily. The words of the sculpture resonated within him. Just as one would not willingly eat rotten food, one should not consume anything which would be considered mental junk. Rohan's constant stream of sensationalism, negative and empty entertainment was like feeding himself poison. Slow suicide, dulling his senses and obscuring his inner beauty. He made changes. Started by turning off the television for a week and then for a month. He replaced his endless social media scrolling with walks in nature and meaningful conversations with his growing boys and girls. He sought out books that uplifted him and music that soothed his soul. It was not instant or overnight, but slowly over time, guess what? A new clarity began to emerge in his mind, and anxieties started to become a thing of the past, replaced by a quiet sense of peace. And when he finally went to collect the completed sculpture from the artist Rohan, the sculpture itself could only be described as a work of transcendent beauty. But Rohan realized that the real masterpiece was not the stone figure in his garden. The real masterpiece were the transformations that had taken place within himself. A life now built not on the trash of the world, but on the solid foundation of a carefully sculpted soul. In all of this, it's important to point out that God or Krishna is not trying to spoil your life. He's not trying to get you from something. All right, he is trying to get you from something, but he's trying to get you to something millions and millions of times better than that. Not to make your life miserable. You can't watch this. You can't hang around with these people. You can't have any fun. No, it's just the opposite. If you will follow God's higher, loving instructions for a life of discipline, you'll end up having more fun than you ever had before. Krishna or God will take you places you could never imagine. That's what he's trying to do, to get you to an abundant, fulfilled, amazing life. Now just do your part. Be selective. And here we come to the theme. Crows and swans, Prabhupada says, are not birds of the same feather because of their different mental attitudes. Crows take pleasure in a place where garbage is thrown out. Just similar to what we call the passionate, fruitive workers or karmis who take pleasure in wine and women and places for gross sensual pleasures. Opposed to that, the swans, they take pleasure in places where there's beautiful lotus flowers, waterfalls, lakes of clear beauty, lilies, surrounded by all other different classes of birds. The swan has one diet. The crow has a completely different diet. Similarly, crow-like people feed on gossip, dead things, questionable material. They get by in life, but they're never going to soar like the swan. Maybe, for instance, at work, you've been going to lunch now with negative, complaining people. I would suggest that as a result of what you heard today, you might want to gradually and subtly start spending less and less time with them. If they want to be a crow, there's nothing you can do about that. They're free to make that choice. But my message is that you are not them. You are not a crow. You can't go to lunch with them. You can't sit with them and not be effective. Now, Krishna's message to you today is find somewhere else to eat lunch. Be proactive, not inactive. Now, what should be obvious to you at this point is that if you're going to be a swan, then you shouldn't hang around crows. Now, everyone wants to experience the best that life has to offer. But the question is, are you willing to give up what you need to give up in order to achieve that abundant, wholesome, healthy, happy, fulfilling life? Are you willing to give up dead flesh, eating meat, gossip, unwholesome things? Sometimes our own thoughts will come up with outrageous, disgusting thoughts like dead food. When that happens, there's a very easy thing you can do. It's just pick up your beads, pick up your clicker, and replace it by praise. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Check that. Don't dwell on it. Rechannel your thinking. Don't be inactive. Be proactive. Fill yourself with wholesome materials. Today we have access to so many apps. Jogging, walking, waiting for an appointment, working out at the gym. Am I wrong? Wonderful opportunities, hours and hours a week to put on your headphones, listen to podcasts, YouTube. I prefer the apps where you have control, not the ones where when you're scrolling all this other stuff comes in because they've diabolically figured out your interests. And you end up not going to where you originally intended. But if you go to YouTube, if you go to podcasts, iTunes, you control the content matter. Fill your conscience with positive, spiritually potent things. Personally, I listen to our radio station, KHQN. Whenever there's a break, we have 9,000 songs about Krishna, reggae, rap, hip-hop, dub, flamenco, soft rock, hard rock, heavy metal. It's all there. So while taking walks, even before going to sleep at night, first thing in the morning, our apartment is blasting. I'm in the shower with the phone turned to full volume, blasting what we call the sounds of transcendence. I start the day with it, I listen to it throughout the day, and I finish the day with it. So take inventory. Ask yourself, what is this media putting into me through the gates of my eyes and my ears? Is it feeding my spirit? Is it challenging me to learn new things? Is it uplifting me to new heights? Is it helping me in my walk with the Lord? If not, be bold enough and courageous enough to make the necessary changes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare. Do not sit inactive while others pollute your consciousness. Take charge of what enters the gates of your eyes and ears. If you will be selective in what you feed yourself, I can promise you this. You'll grow, you'll rise higher, you'll fulfill the innermost God-given dreams of your heart. You'll go to places you could not have even imagined. Krishna will open doors you could not have opened on your own. You'll rise higher. You'll end up becoming everything that Krishna or God created you to be in this life, and I predict that in the next life, you'll go back to home, back to Godhead. So if any of that resonates with you, you're invited to raise your hands along with me. We can all say together, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.